Today we're filming the first round of this year's World Cup. Not that kind of World Cup, the Iron World Cup. Last year we did the Drive World Cup, which saw the Callaway Maverick take the crown. Now this year we're going to do things a bit differently and we decided to do an Iron World Cup. Now all the releases recently have been new game improvement irons, so we're going to start off with these. But which ones should we put head to head first? Well, we've actually had a request in the comments from Ray Farrell, who wants the Ping G425 to go head to head against the Wilson D9. So let's find out who the winner's going to be in the first round of the NCG Iron World Cup. So I'm going to start with the 7 irons in both. Now in terms of specs, there is a little bit of a difference here in terms of loft. The Wilson D9 is actually coming in at 27 degrees for the 7 iron and the Ping is coming in at 30. Now obviously that's quite a big difference, but we also see there's difference in sole width here and different technology. So those lofts are going to match into the kind of launch and the height that the manufacturers want. So let's see what difference that makes in terms of distance and also in terms of trajectory. Now first up in terms of looks, obviously there's quite a big difference in terms of both shaping and style here. I have to say I do quite like the curved shape of the Wilson, but then overall I probably prefer the overall styling and aesthetics that we've got with the Ping. Having said that, they're both pretty neutral palettes, so I think everyone's going to get on with both of these. Now the big difference here is obviously the Wilson is shiny, whereas the Ping is more of a matte colour, and this definitely does make a big difference aesthetically over the ball. Another thing to note here is the Wilson does have a slightly wider sole, especially because of the curved nature of the back of this, so that could affect turf interaction. Finally, over the ball, although these are pretty similar in terms of blade length, the Ping top line is definitely a little bit smaller, which is probably something I prefer. I would also say there is a little bit less offset on the Ping as well. Right, first up I'm going to start with the Ping. That literally went so straight. I have to say I love the ball flight on these when you catch them good. It's just so stable. I've had a pretty consistent ball fly and trajectory so far with these. Front to back dispersion's been pretty consistent so far. So that was quite interesting because I struck that a bit off the toe, but the shot shape was still pretty controlled and also the distance was still up there with the other shots, so I'd definitely be pleased with that on the course in terms of the forgiveness on that off-centre strike. So that averaged out at 156 yards, which is probably about 6 to 8 yards longer than I would expect with my own irons. This distance was very consistent with the majority of shots sitting between 152 and 158, and then I had one that went out at 160. So in terms of front to back dispersion, I'd be very happy with that. I was also really happy with the lateral dispersion. I felt like I could hit that nice little stock shot draw that I like to hit, and really the dispersion was pretty tight across the board here. The average launch came out at 27 degrees, which is definitely where I would expect in a 7 iron to sit, but I would say it was slightly inconsistent. Some of that came down to me hitting a few matty strikes which didn't quite fly as high, and we also saw this linking into kind of the spin numbers and also the descent angle that were all a little bit inconsistent. But let's go and hit the Wilson now and see how the two compare. That flew a pretty long way. Even though we've got a stronger loft here, we still have a really good trajectory and I really like the nice kind of high ball flight I've got. In terms of shot shape, I think I'm probably hitting a bit more of a mix here, so some little fades and some draws. Whereas with the Ping, I was a lot more consistent in hitting one shot shape throughout the lot. Okay, so that was pretty interesting. I know you all want to know what the distance was, so the average carry here was 166. Now that's 10 yards longer than what we saw with the Ping, so quite a big difference there. It's also worth noting the front to back dispersion here was still 9 yards, so it was very good and very consistent and not too dissimilar to what we saw with the Ping. Now obviously these are 3 degrees stronger, so I would have expected them to go a little bit further, and I think that 10-yard gap is definitely kind of what I would have expected from 3 degrees difference. But did that distance affect the other variables? In terms of launch, these were launching slightly lower, but they did actually have a higher peak high, which is definitely pretty interesting. So if you're someone who needs that extra launch, it's worth considering the difference there. I would say personally, I already hit it pretty high, so I might not necessarily need that, but that's going to vary between players. In terms of spin, they were both quite low. The Ping averaged out at 3,800 and the Wilson was at 4,200, but I do think that it was a little more consistent with the Wilson throughout the shots. The thing I preferred with the Ping was that I felt like I could control my shot shape better. I do like to hit a little draw, and I had more draw shots throughout the testing, whereas with the Wilson I had more of a mixed bag, so a couple draws and a couple fades. I just felt like I could control the club face a little bit better with the Ping. I think that came out in the dispersion. You can see the Ping grouping was a lot tighter, but overall the Wilson's really wasn't that bad, especially to say it was going 10 yards further. Now in terms of the data we've collected here today, I don't see how I can't crown the Wilson the winner. It's gone 10 yards further, and the dispersion wasn't really that much affected, and to be honest, the other variables were all pretty consistent. But don't worry Ping fans, if you really want that model but you want the extra distance, they are also available in a power spec option that are 1.5 degrees stronger, so that's definitely another great option there. But for now, it's the Wilson D9 that's going to be going through to the next round of the NCG Iron World Cup. Right, that's all for today. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below or send me a line on Twitter or Instagram. If you're after more information on the Wilson D9 and the Ping G425 irons, make sure you head over and check out my full reviews of both products. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications too. And if you're after more golf content, head to the National Club Golfer social media channels for more.